This is our first screencast in our new topic, the development gap. And in this screencast, we're going to be looking at these things that are on the screen here. So we're going to be looking at the traditional ways of dividing up the world in terms of development. And then we're going to look at a modern division based on wealth. So, one early method of dividing up the world was from a Western European perspective. Europeans saw themselves as the first world. The wealthier regions they colonised, such as North America and Australia, were referred to as the Second World. Poorer countries were then referred to and grouped together as the Third World. This system, however, had no clear place for communist countries such as the former Soviet Union, which were quite well developed and had never been colonies or part of Western Europe. They were added into the Second World group, but this was always an unsatisfactory category. Now, the Brandt Report on the State of World Development was published in 1971. It made a much simpler division, contrasting economically wealthier and industrialised countries with poorer, less mature and largely agricultural ones. Now, this map shows us a line called the North-South Divide, which was drawn on the map to make the differences clear. The development indicator used was something called the gross national product per capita, which is a measure of a country's wealth. This over-simplistic system is now seen as out of date, though. Now, gross domestic product is an indication of the value of goods produced within a country's borders. Gross national product relates to the value of goods produced by citizens of the country. When it's per capita, you divide it by the population, it gives it per person. Now, this type of map is what's known as a choropleth map. It is a shaded map where the deeper the depth of colour increases as the value gets higher. So as you can see here, the very darkest colour in America and in Western Europe is the highest number, so 12,000 or more US dollars per person. And the shading gets lighter the further down you go. Now, when they do a choropleth map, the shades are close to each other in the colour wheel. So as you can see here, they are all kind of ready in colour in different shades within that. Choropleths give a clear visual impression of the pattern of values. We naturally associate darker colours with higher values and paler ones with lower values. The appearance of the map helps us to understand it easily and quickly. Now, it might be in the exam that you have to draw a choropleth map, and you need to be able to understand what it looks like and possibly to kind of produce one yourself. Now, more recently, a simple twofold division involved the use of less developed countries, known as LDCs, and more developed countries, MDCs. This was not widely accepted, though, because development is not only about economic, but also about social and cultural. And many poor countries have a rich culture and society. It was negative to suggest that culture was at a low level just because the country was economically poor, and therefore it changed from LDC to become less economically developed country, LEDC, and MDC became more economically developed countries, so your richer countries. Since the late 20th century, the world order has changed tremendously. Globalisation means there are more contacts and trade between countries than ever before. Some LEDCs are growing more rapidly than most developed economies. A new category had to be introduced to cover those developing fastest, and they became known as newly industrialising countries. Now, these include the Asian tigers as well as other emerging industrial nations such as Malaysia, the Philippines and China. Now, within any country there are increasing differences between people and regions. The middle class has grown in many poor countries. Their capital cities, along with their surrounding regions, are often well developed and almost indistinguishable from any MEDC city. So in other words, no different. The LEDC MEDC division is therefore becoming much less useful. So this map shows a new way of dividing the countries up in terms of the five-fold division based on wealth. Now, the five categories, as it says, are based on wealth, and they are: 1, rich industrialising countries; 2, oil exporting countries; 3, newly industrialising countries; 4, those that were former centrally planned economies, so those previously having a communist political system, such as the Soviet Union; and 5, heavily indebted poor countries. So, number 1, the rich industrialising countries. You can see incorporates kind of North America, so USA and Canada, Western Europe, you can see, Australia, and New Zealand down here. Now the UK will be classed as a rich industrialising country. We are still wealthy, but our manufacturing industry has declined over recent years. The oil exporting countries, so as you can see the yellow here, are countries that have a great spread of wealth in their societies. Huge amounts of money are made from exporting oil. Rich people and companies are investing their money in businesses abroad. Some UK football clubs, for example, are being bought by Middle Eastern oil billionaires, such as Man City. Nevertheless, the majority of people remain poor in oil exporting countries such as the United Arab Emirates and Venezuela. Some profit is used for development projects, so eventually everyone may actually benefit. Number 3, the newly industrialising countries. So you can see here Mexico, China, India, and these other countries are known as newly industrialising countries and have developed rapidly in recent years and will probably become Category 1 countries, so rich industrialising countries, in the near future. Now number 4 are the former centrally planned economies, and the category of former centrally planned economies covers a wide variety of countries today. Former communist states have become more like Western European countries, with Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Romania, Poland and the Czech Republic becoming member states of the European Union. China still has its communist government. However, it's one of the world's fastest growing economies and its speed of industrialisation has been absolutely phenomenal. Finally, number 5 are the heavily indebted poor countries. Now, some of the world's poorest countries borrowed large amounts of money in the past and are now in serious debt. As we can see, many African countries, so all these purple areas here, are in this position. Once in debt, it's very hard for these countries to actually develop.